Hello, hello, hello. Uh, it's my first time doing one of these, and it's kind of late at night as well, at least here on the West Coast where it is 3:09 a.m. Um, but yeah, this is something I'd been thinking about, so I was like, I'll try it out on YouTube. We'll see what happens. Um, so yeah, I wanted to sort of talk about mental health. I just wrapped up on a show called Taming of the Shame for the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and it's going to go up in some more festivals and tours around the country uh, later on this year. But in it, I talk a lot about my own mental health emergencies and depression and being suicidal and things of that nature. So figured I'd open up to you guys as well here on YouTube. And maybe it connects with someone, or maybe someone wants to come see the show live, whatever. So for me, it always felt like something was a little off or a little different in terms of mental health, in terms of how my brain operated. Um, and had a nervous breakdown where I used to work this theater in Chicago. And it's funny because I had asked for help. I felt like something was going on and was like, hey, can I take some time off? And they just sort of kept pushing it back and pushing it back. And I said, okay, I'll just keep coming in to work. Um, and then eventually it all sort of exploded where I had this nervous breakdown 5 minutes before showtime where I was crying and vomiting. Um, there's were like a lot of contributing factors, and some of it was my fault. Some of it was, just not uh, being taken care of the way that I felt that I should be. But that's neither here nor there. So I went to a doctor. I got prescribed Lexapro. Uh, After that, I moved to LA. It's like maybe I'd been saying for 4 years that I was going to move to LA, so it just felt like it was the right time. I'd finished up everything up that I needed to do, so I finally got out here. Um, had kind of another sort of mental health emergency where I tried to kill myself while working on the set as an extra for this TV show, and I was supposed to uh, write for this show, this other show, and things didn't come to fruition. And there's still a lot that was going on with people saying things, and I don't take negativity very well. I soak it all in, um, and part of that's just my own social anxiety and my lack of communication, and that kind of struggle in its own right. Um, so I kind of took all of that on, and um, fast forward to to that moment where I had a knife in my hand and was like, all right, well, here we go. I believe it was like a Friday, the Thursday or Friday, and my mom happened to call right at that time, and she was driving in Atlanta, was on the interstate, and there was a kid who was also, I guess it was also attempting suicide, but he was sitting in the middle of the street, and cars are coming by on the interstate rather, and all these people like rushed him off because they're like, oh, he's trying to kill himself by getting hit by a car. So she called me to tell me this right as I have a knife in my hand to cut my wrist. Um, and so she asked me how I was doing, and I said, I don't think I can live like this anymore. She starts crying. I start crying, and she was like, even if you die, people will still talk about you. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep going on. And that's what sort of was the catalyst for me to at least try. So I started texting the suicide hotline. I quit drinking, just little things that helped. My Lexapro prescription, it also ran out around that time. So a little bit later, I went to a psychiatrist, and I just need, for me, it was a lot of like because there's something that a friend said to me recently. He said, "You're only paranoid until you're right." And had been dealing with paranoia for a long time, where I felt like I couldn't trust anybody, like nobody liked me. I felt like I didn't have any friends. I felt like everyone was out to get me or betray me or whatever. Um, and in some cases, I was right. In some cases, it was just my own, you know, disease. So from there, what happened was went to the psychiatrist, and some of that I'm sure I'll get into at some point later down the line. But it helped to know. It helped to at least learn, like, this is what this is. This is why this is happening. You're not crazy. Because a big part of it was having so many people tell me that I was crazy that I thought, well, maybe that's just it. Maybe I am crazy. Or people saying, like, I don't think people understand the emotional or mental drain that can like take part on you um, if you embark on social media to find some sort of resolve or justification or joy, because it's not where it should be. That's not where you should find that type of happiness. But we do, especially like in the comedy world. We chase joy through likes, through retweets, through favorites, that kind of thing. And that's kind of where I was. And to not have that, to also not have friends and to not have stage time and to be in a new city, I'm far away from everybody. It, really bogged down me physically, emotionally, and mentally, and psychologically as well. So, not everyone responded the same way. As part of the story I talk about, or on stage rather, for the show, I mentioned how I had one friend who I reached out to her, or I loosely say friend. We were friends. This another comic who lived in Chicago, or she still lives there, but I guess travels a bunch. And I told her about being suicidal, and she said, "You can't be suicidal. I've been suicidal my whole life." Like, that was her response, and just this like to have that from someone who used to tell you that they care about you or they love you or whatever, someone you know everything about, who knows everything about you, that hurt, and it kind of opened up a lot of wounds. But I had to learn, uh, also from the friend who ironically said the thing about paranoia, um, that you can't really, and it's one of those easier said than done things, but to not wear the badge of what people think of you or what people are saying about you, um, and to not take that to heart, because a lot of people are hurt. A lot of people are dealing with their own struggles and dealing with their own issues. And I would hope that her intention wasn't for me to kill myself. Um, she and ironically, a friend of mine who unfortunately passed away last week, he said, I told him the story and I showed him all the text messages, and he was like, "Yeah, she was gaslighting you because she kept saying like you're not going to manipulate me." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Yeah, she was gaslighting you, so so to warp your mind." And that's a big part of uh, the toxicity of the environments we put ourselves in, is that, or resolve, and that's really not how any of these things should operate. So I guess my parting words are: love yourself, treat other people kindly, uh, love everybody. You never know what someone's going through. Check in on people. It helps. Um, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening or day or morning whenever you're watching this.